Now that we know both our E-shaped bar chords and our A-shaped bar chords and have all the various shapes within them, as well as the dual root notes, etc., we can now start to play some pieces of music that were previously inaccessible by us. The first one we're going to do is called the jazz backing piece. It uses a combination of E-shaped bar chords and A-shaped bar chords, and it's a very effective, good sounding jazz type music. So we'll go through it bar by bar. Let's have a look at the first bar. It's an E minor 7th chord. Now, as you can see, it's got annotation there to tell us which shape it is. So the E minor 7th chord is an A-shaped bar chord. So this is A shape, of course. It's going to use the 5th string root note. It's on the 7th fret, so let's go up here. Of course, that note's an E. So then we put the bar down, and let's play the minor 7th shape. For the A shape is where the 2nd finger goes there, and the 3rd finger there, and that's the minor 7th shape. So we have an E minor 7th chord, which is an A-shaped bar chord, using the 5th string as a root note on the 7th fret, and from the A shape, shapes that we learned, the minor, major, minor 7th and 7th, it's a minor 7th. So that's our first chord, an E minor 7th. The next chord is an A7, and it tells us it's an E-shaped chord, and it's on the 5th fret. So if it's an E-shaped chord, it's using the 6th string as a root note. So let's go open up the 6th string, go up to the 5th fret. There's the 5th fret. We put down the bar across all 6 strings, and it's a 7th shape. So we put the 2nd finger down and the 3rd finger down. We'll put the major down if we remember, and we'll just take the 4th finger off to get the 7th. There's our second chord now, an A7 chord. The third chord is a D minor 7th chord. Now it's an A-shaped chord, so we're going to use the 5th string as a root note. Up to the 5th fret, it tells us. There's our root note. We put the bar down, and then we put the minor 7th shape down. So the 2nd finger and the 3rd finger. The 4th finger doesn't get used, remember, in the minor 7th. That's the D minor 7th chord. Next chord up is a G7 chord. So we put the bar down. First of all, we find the root note, of course, on the 6th string, E-shaped chord. 3rd fret for the G. Bar goes down. 7th shape goes down then. So we've just used the 2nd and 3rd fingers. Next chord is a C minor 7th. Tells us it's an A shape on the 3rd fret. So A shape uses 5th string root, 3rd fret. Bar goes down. Put the minor 7th shape down, which is of course just these 2 fingers. Next chord up is an F7. Now we know F is on the 1st fret, 6th string. So there's our E shape on the 6th string root note. Bar goes down, 7th shape goes down. Now the last chord is the anomaly. It's called a B flat major 7th. Now we haven't actually learnt a major 7th shape yet, but we do, however, have an A major 7th chord as an open chord that we learnt earlier in session 4. And if you remember it, it puts the 1st finger onto the 1st fret of the 3rd string, 2nd finger 2nd fret 4th string, and 3rd finger 2nd fret 2nd string. So that's the A major 7th chord. So if we wanted to make that into a bar chord, what we would have to do is slide it up, bring it out from there. Then we would substitute the fingers. For example, we're going to have to take the 1st finger off because we're going to use that to bar. So the 2nd finger has to go where it was. Now the 3rd finger has to go where the 2nd finger was, and the 4th finger has to go down where the 3rd finger was. So there's our A major 7th chord, upper fret 2 high, but using these 3 fingers and the 1st finger's free. So now we can put the 1st finger down as a bar. So we now have a new shape there called a major 7th shape, which we can add to our A-shaped chords. Now we have to find the root note of B flat, which is on the 1st fret, and so that's our last chord, the B flat major 7th. So let's try and play that piece of music. We'll just play it just using the classic strum, 1 bar of E minor 7th, 1 bar of A7, 1 bar of D minor 7th, 1 bar of G7, 1 bar of D minor 7th, 1 bar of F7, and then 2 bars of B flat major 7th. I'll play it for you now. 1, 2, 3, 4. Quite an interesting sounding piece of music there. I'll play it again for you this time keeping it in time again, but using a bit of a jazz type strum, and it gives you an example of what we're still playing nice simple chords there, or they're bar chords, but they're still simple chords that we're playing after only a few months of playing the guitar, but we're making something that sounds really professional and really nice out of it. So I'll play it for you now with a bit of a different strum there. different sound again there. You may even pick that up in some jazz pieces if you listen to them there. Anyway, so that's the jazz backing piece. It'll take a lot of work. Make sure you get the right shapes and understand the shapes. When we talk about A shape, we're talking about a 5th string root note. E shape, we're talking about a 6th string root note. Now, bar chords are difficult, and I'm sure you're all struggling with them a little bit, but it's worth the perseverance to keep them up. Again, of course, you will get sore hands and sore down here where your thumb muscle is and all that, but really try and persevere with them. So when you do start getting them to sound good, they really are absolutely lovely chords to use. And what I want to do is take the jazz backing piece that we learned in the last lesson and do the same thing with that again, except now we're going to fingerpick it, which will give it a whole different sound altogether again. Now, it's been written out in music and tablature for you to play, and as you can see, if we look at it, it looks quite confusing to play, and the tablature doesn't really tell us much, and neither does the music, of course, but it does give us the timing like what we want. But the chord diagrams, or the chords up the top, tell us what we're going to play. The first chord, of course, is an E minor 7th chord. We have 2 bars of it. Now, if we have a close look at the tablature, we can see that that actually is the same as what our fingerpicking pattern is for number 3 for the first bar, and then fingerpicking pattern number 2 for the second bar. Just looks a lot more professional written out of music, of course. So if we do the first 2 bars of that song, we just put our E minor 7th chord down, and then we fingerpick pattern number 3, and then we fingerpick pattern number 2, and it sounds quite nice. So that's our first 2 bars there of the E minor 7th chord. The next 2 bars are of course on an A7 chord, which is back here, 6th string bass note, E-shaped bar chord, same 2 finger picking patterns again, pattern 3 and pattern 2. So it doesn't look like that way on the music, so you have to align them to yourself. You have to look at it and play through it, and then you'll realise that, hey, these are just the finger picking patterns like we learned earlier. So let's play that now. Then we do the D minor 7th chord, 5th string bass note, of course. The bass notes for the finger picking are the same as what the root notes are. So on the D minor 7th chord, pattern 3 and then pattern 2. Then to a G7 chord. Then to a C minor 7th chord. To an F7 chord, and then we can see it's got 4 bars of B flat major 7th there. We will play them. 2 of them, of course, are done with finger picking pattern number 3, and 2 of them with finger picking pattern number 2. That's the entire piece as per the music written there. It's quite difficult to play, and what the idea of fingerpicking is, it'll give you an indication of how well you're holding down the bar chords there. A lot of the notes will not ring through, they'll be muffled out, and that's mainly because the left hand's not holding it down hard enough. Now you might be struggling for all you're worth and holding it down as hard as you can, but still not getting those strings ringing through. And if you are, the most likely thing is that the first finger's not straight. People have a tendency to curve the first finger like this, but it's got to be straight and absolutely flat and coming in nice and firm there. But if you can't do it, then don't worry about it, because it's something that'll come with time anyway. So I'll play that piece of music through for you now with the finger picking patterns as they're written, as per the music's written there. And you should try and endeavour to do the same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4. So an interesting sounding piece, very nice, and again puts a whole new perspective onto what we can do with bar chords and the sounds we can get out of them. So keep up the good work and try really hard on this one.